Is this the Paranormal Food Consciousness Podcast?
Oh, it's such a beautiful evening. These stars are shining so brightly. This trip to Arizona has been so much fun.
The scenery has been awesome. Even in the evening sky, it looks spectacular tonight. It's so clear. Let's sit on these chairs and enjoy all this. I'm glad we brought our drinks outside.
Wait, did you see that? Over there. Hey, it's a shooting star.
I think I just missed it. Just saw the tail end. Maybe there will be others. I want to see it again.
Me too. Yes, we can just relax and enjoy the show tonight. And I was reading the other day about an American astronomer and ufologist who lived here in Scottsdale. His name is J. Allen Hynek.
The name seems familiar.
The shooting star, that reminded me of him. Did you know that Hynek was born just before Halley's Comet passed close to the Earth in 1910, and then he died shortly after Halley's Comet made its return appearance in 1986?
How eerie. It's like his life came and went with the path of the comet. Oh, look! I see another shooting star.
This is just incredible. Maybe there'll be even more.
I hope so.
While we wait and look up in the sky, would you like to hear more about the infamous Mr. Hynek?
Sure.
Cool. Well, Joseph Allen Hynek was an American astronomer, professor, and ufologist. He is remembered for his UFO research as a scientific advisor to the UFO studies undertaken by the U.S. Air Force under 3 different projects. First was Project Sign from 1947 to 1949, and then Project Drudge, 1949 to 1951, and then Project Blue Book from 1952 to 1969. In the later years, he conducted his own independent UFO research, developing the Close Encounter Classification System. He was one of the first people to conduct scientific analysis of reports possible trace evidence left by UFOs. He was born in Chicago to Czech parents in 1910, and he was actually bedridden with scarlet fever at age 7. After reading all the children's books his mother, Bertha, could find, he then started to read textbooks and became especially interested in astronomy. He excelled in math and was the editor of his high school paper.
It sounds like he had a very inquisitive mind.
Yes. And in 1935, Hynek received BS from the University of Chicago and then a PhD in astrophysics at Yerkes Observatory. The next year, he joined the Department of Physics and Astronomy at Ohio State University. In the 1940s, he analyzed reports of unidentified aircraft sightings as a consultant to the U.S. Air Force's Project Sign. The following decade, he began conducting more thorough investigations under the umbrella of the renamed Project Blue Book, with his discoveries fueling a quest to turn the study of UFOs into a legitimate scientific practice. He later founded the Center for UFO Studies and published multiple books.
Interesting.
One of them introduced the Close Encounters classification of sightings. That inspired the Steven Spielberg movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind. He made a cameo appearance in the film, and he was seen bearded with a pipe in his mouth, watching the aliens disembark from the mothership at the end of the movie.
I love that movie. I didn't know he had a bit part, though. I'm going to have to watch the movie again.
Yeah, it's been a long time since that movie came out. I'm sure we should be able to see it sometime soon. And during the late stages of Blue Book in the 1960s, Hynek began speaking openly about his disagreements and disappointment with the Air Force. Among the cases about which he openly dissented with the Air Force were the highly publicized Portage County UFO chase, in which several police officers chased a UFO for half an hour, and then also the encounter of Lonnie Zamora, a police officer who reported an encounter with a metallic egg-shaped aircraft near Socorro, New Mexico. In a 1985 interview, Hynek was asked why he didn't support the Air Force's findings on UFOs, and he replied, two things really. One was the completely negative and unyielding attitude of the Air Force. They wouldn't give UFOs a chance of existing, even if they were flying up and down the streets in broad daylight. Everything needed to have an explanation, and I began to resent that, even though I basically felt the same way, because I still thought they weren't going about it in the right way. Secondly, the caliber of the witnesses began to trouble me. Quite a few instances were reported by military pilots, for example, and I knew them to be fairly well trained. So this is when I began to think that, well, maybe there was something to all of this. In 2009, the History Channel created and aired a highly fictionalized TV show based on his UFO research and the organization he worked for, dubbed Project Blue Book. Hynek then died in 1986 of a malignant brain tumor. He was survived by his wife, Mimi, and their 5 grown children.
It's interesting how he was hired by the Air Force to basically, what seems like, discredit the sightings. And then he came around to actually questioning the findings and support the witnesses who he found were credible. And now he's very historic in the UFO community. He made a lot of contributions, and that at least the civilian community helped set it on the path it is currently on.
He had such a passion for the unknown.
Yes, and what is that? Wait, I hear something.
Look,
Oh,
there's some kind of portal opening in the sky. Do you hear those sound waves?
yes, I do. What is it?
It sounds like one hungry dude.
I'm hungry. Let's get cooking. Feed me. Feed me.
Can you guess the food we are going to prepare today?
I have no idea. Tang, the drink of astronauts in the 1960s?
Tang? You mean
Tang.
that orange drink?
Yeah, you remember?
Oh
The
my
astronauts
gosh.
would drink John Glenn and everybody drink Tang.
Oh my gosh, that reminds me of I Dream of Jeannie. That is so long ago. This in the 60s. Okay. Well, no, we're not going to do that. A recipe for Tang. No, we're not going to do Tang today. But because Hynek's parents were Czech, we are going to make traditional Czech beef goulash.
Yum.
There are so many versions of this family favorite using secret ingredients. Over the centuries, goulash has been a staple dinner for many Czech pubs, restaurants, and at home. You can use any kind of meat, any cut of a meat, and traditionally the cheaper cuts are used. Leftovers are even better. This recipe also freezes well. It is usually served with a large dumpling or chunks of fresh bread with caraway seeds. This recipe comes from Magdalena, a Czech native, on her blog, View from Prague. So for traditional Czech beef goulash, we use 2 pounds of beef, cheaper cuts usually, 2 onions finely chopped, 2 cloves of garlic crushed, 2 tablespoons of tomato puree, 1 cube of beef stock, half a teaspoon sweet paprika, 1/4 of a teaspoon caraway seeds, marjoram, and chili powder, 1/4 a teaspoon salt and black pepper mixed, 2 tablespoons plain flour.
It sounds really good, though. I would up the garlic.
Mm-hmm. I usually do too. I do.
Okay.
But there are a lot of onions in it, so
That's true. That's true.
It probably doesn't need it.
Yeah, it sounds simple.
What you do is you cut the beef into chunks and then mix together the flour, salt, and freshly ground pepper and put it in a deeper plate or bowl. Coat the beef pieces in the flour mix. Then heat a large frying pan with some oil and leave it until it's medium hot. Fry the beef on both sides. I do it on all sides until it's golden brown and the meat is sealed, and then place on a new plate. Do this in several batches if your pan is small. Then next fry the onions and then until they are kind of opaque, and flavor them with caraway seeds, a pinch of chili, some marjoram, and also add the garlic. Put the beef back into the frying pan or swap it for a larger stock pan or a soup pot if you think you need more room. Add the beef stock cube and the 2 cups of hot water, then the tomato puree. Reduce the heat to medium-low, cover with a lid, and let the whole thing simmer for about 2 hours.
Now,
Check.
Now, what would you do if you were doing this in an instant pot?
I haven't done this in an instant pot, but let's see. It says 2 hours. And
I guess you can cook it in the instant pot. I mean, the oil and the floured beef.
Yeah, if you put it on saute,
right.
And you do that for about, it gives you, at least mine, it does 7 minutes on saute. So it takes a couple minutes for it to get hot enough, and then you could do that, coat the pieces.
Are you saying when you hit saute, it's a timer for 7 minutes?
Yes.
I had no idea.
It goes for 7 minutes. It takes about 2 minutes to heat up, and then you can start frying. It'll sizzle. You can put put the oil in there, right. and then it'll get hot enough. Then you can put the beef in because it's already you've coated it with the flour. So you go ahead and I would get them all browned like it says to do, and then take them out. And then you could go ahead and probably 7 minutes will already be done by then. And then you would just I hit cancel on my stock pot, and then I would get the onions, put them in there, and then hit saute again. And it'll take a minute or two for it to get hot, and then you can do the onions. And the garlic. And the garlic, yeah, onions and garlic. And then you could put it on the low, because if it's a cheap cut of meat that you have, it does better in cooking low. And then I would check it after 4 hours, and if the meat was kind of tough, I would put it on the high pressure for like 5 minutes.
Right, to do it. So that's how you do it in an instant pot. But what if you were in the middle of the wilderness and had just an iron pot and a fire?
Well, number one, I don't think I'd have 2 pounds of fresh meat with me in the wilderness unless I killed my own cow.
What are you doing? What's a cow doing in the wilderness?
I know.
I mean, that's really pathetic.
Why would I have 2 pounds of beef and make goulash in the middle of the... What? What are you talking about?
We go get a tent in the cow pasture and go kill my own cow in the cow pasture.
I don't...
Ooh, I'm living rough.
I guess so, because I just don't know how you'd have 2 pounds of beef. I guess it would be
venison or something like that. Now, what would be a good... What would be a good vegetarian substitute for the beef if you didn't want to eat beef?
Tofu?
No. What about Well, maybe for some people, but I would have thought maybe Beyond Beef burgers or something like that,
Which you would find when you're in the middle of the
Store. No.
forest.
Oh, no. In the forest. Nah, I don't know what you're going to do in the middle of the forest.
I don't know why you asked me this question.
Well, you just don't know what kind of conditions the listeners are sitting in. If they're out, somewhere camping and
They're camping and they say
and they're
to
listening
themselves,
to the podcast and thinking, what am I going to have for dinner tonight?
I want to have beef goulash.
But all they got is a fireplace and a cast iron pot. I don't think they'd really,
And a dead raccoon.
No, squirrel. No, raccoons are too cute.
Well, I didn't say they killed it. It's just dead.
Oh, I see. Roadkill. Roadkill goulash.
Well, maybe.
That's what we're going to do tonight. Roadkill goulash. Okay.
Mr.
Well,
Hynek never thought his Czech heritage would come down to this, talking about roadkill.
Yes. So tell me, when you cooked it at home, how did it come out?
Oh, it's really good. I like it. That's one of my favorites. I haven't really added the caraway seeds to it before, but I've done a very similar goulash to this, and it turned out really good. Your house will smell wonderful.
And do you use the sweet paprika or the hot paprika?
I like sweet paprika. Regular paprika?
Well, you can get hot. I mean, I know when I went to Hungary, you could get hot and sweet paprika. You can probably get hot and sweet paprika here, I'm sure.
Magdalena says sweet paprika in hers.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'm just going by her recipe, and it is good.
And we'll have the link on our blog or website. It sounds really good.
Yes. So let me go back to where I'm supposed to finish the recipe, if possible. Okay, so we cut them up into bigger chunks. Then we do the coating and we fry them in a pan. Then after you've done that, the meat is sealed, place it on a new plate. Do this in several batches if your pan is small. After you have put the beef, done the onions and they're opaque, and they flavored them with caraway seeds, a pinch of chili and marjoram, and then the garlic as well. You put the beef back in the frying pan, and then add the beef stock cube and 2 cups of hot water. Add the tomato puree, and then reduce the heat to medium-low, cover with a lid, and let the whole thing simmer for about 2 hours. Check regularly to make sure that the stock doesn't evaporate too much, and check the beef. Depending on what cut of beef you buy, the dish might be ready sooner or longer than the recipe. Serve with the traditional Czech dumpling or with a thickly cut sourdough bread.
Sourdough bread.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 hours if you're using meat. How long if it's roadkill?
That depends on the toughness of what you killed.
No, you didn't kill it if it's well, you might have. So anyway, it does sound good. I look forward to making that.
Mm-hmm. Well, good. You'll have to do that sometime. Okay, so that ends that recipe. Oh, wait, look up. Do you see that? There's another star.
Oh, there it goes. I guess that's a sign we need to talk more about Hynek and UFOs.
Oh, let's go search for UFOs.
So, on the topic of UFOs, I want to share with our listeners a clip from a University of Virginia Center for Politics interview with the NASA Administrator Bill Nelson. NASA, as many of our listeners know, is the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. The administrator is the top position in that organization.
NASA has centers in many countries across the U.S., and NASA partnerships are also found in every state and many other countries.
Now, in this clip from a 19 October 2021 interview, Bill Nelson discusses UFOs and the possibility of extraterrestrial life. It is certainly a popular clip on the subreddit UFOs, where it currently has nearly 5,000 upvotes.
Hey, that Bill Nelson, isn't that Major Nelson? Remember I was talking?
From my dream of Jeannie? Well, you mean this is some sort of time warp, and this is actually Bill Nelson is actually Major Nelson from My Dream of Jeannie.
This is
reincarnated.
What are the chances it's the same name?
Ooh. I honestly never thought of that.
Somebody on Reddit has come to that conclusion before, I'm sure.
That would probably be under the subreddit glitch in the matrix or something like that. But no, I don't believe it's the same one. But
Major Nelson. Okay. Well,
so
not that popularity is evidence, but it is more a reflection of much attention a certain community assigns to the message Mr. Nelson is communicating.
It also demonstrates how far we have come since Alan Hynek's time, though we have a lot farther to go before we fully understand all the sightings and phenomena we are seeing across the world and space when it comes to unidentified aerial phenomena or UFOs.
Let's play that clip from the interview with Major Nelson.
Larry, before we leave, I hadn't even talked about the search for extraterrestrial life. What do you think what do you think we're doing on Mars? What do you think we're looking for life? This is a part of NASA's mission. That's what this telescope is going to be looking for. Are there other planets elsewhere that there is life? Now, I know what you've seen is what those Navy pilots saw in 2004, and there have been some 300 sightings since then. And I've talked to those pilots, and they know they saw something, and their radars locked onto it. And then all of a sudden it was here on the surface, and then it's there. And they don't know what it is, and we don't know what it is. We hope it's not an adversary here on Earth that has that kind of technology. But it's something. And so this is a mission that we're constantly looking. Who is out there? Who are we? How did we get here? How did we become as we are? How did we develop? How did we civilize? And are those same conditions out there in a universe that has billions of other suns in billions of other galaxies? It's so large, I can't conceive it.
Mr. Nelson goes on to note that there are theories that there are other universes out there in addition to planets and galaxies, and provides his personal reflections on what this means to him, which is essentially to be a better steward of the planet, take care of the planet.
I wonder how many theories on the origins of UAPs there are.
There's quite a few. There's a Twitter user whose pseudonym is Berlinghoff Rasmussen, who is also a moderator of the subreddit UFO. And he did this slide, and he tried to describe these different theories that exist. He put them into 6 categories, and those categories are physical, kind of the nuts and bolts, the prosaic, prosaic, mental, other, extra-dimensional, and interdimensional. Let's just look at nuts and bolts. That's pretty comfortable space with a lot of people because it's like, what are these mechanisms? What is the physics behind it? How can we build it? What materials are they made out of? A lot of the research is done on trying to understand what kind of spacecraft can move like this and how do you operate that and how do you build it. So that's kind of what nuts and bolts. Now, in his category, it's a little bit more esoteric. He says consisting of material objects or creatures. So he goes immediately into a hypothesis that there could be extraterrestrial being or crypto-terrestrial. See what he says, the difference between those extraterrestrial being the solar system or interstellar, whereas crypto-terrestrial would be humanoid, in hiding, and underwater. And he gives various references. We probably should do a podcast just on each section. Now, do you know what he means by crypto-terrestrial? Can you give an example?
I'm looking at the map because I don't know anything about crypto-terrestrials, but it says non-human beings native to Earth.
Yes, like, can you think of one? Like maybe huge and hairy that you might see?
Oh, are you talking about, what's that?
It's large.
Wait a minute.
It's a horror.
Oh, you're talking about an ape?
Bigfoot,
A gorilla?
large.
A gorilla?
Bigfoot, large, hairy. I mean, how many times have you heard the word Bigfoot?
Yes, Bigfoot. That was I was trying to think, but I couldn't even think of its name.
So-
Harry.
Now you're thinking
In that movie.
That movie, right? Exactly, yeah. And so there's various, even more reptilian-like and different things that people say they have seen. You can scour the internet. I'm sure we'll address some of these on different podcasts. So his definition of physical nuts and bolts is much broader than I had thought of nuts and bolts as being. Very physical, not necessarily postulating other beings. Though I can see his point, because if there's craft that humans didn't build, then something built it. And then he talks about the prosaic one, which he says of human origin or otherwise mundane. I guess this is more of the nuts and bolts thing I was thinking of, where it's like a breakaway secret space program and civilization. And he gives references to books, such as this one's by Richard Dolan, or it's a military secret program, or it's civilian, a dawn of a new age. Whereas, and natural prosaic explanations are celestial, meteorological, or optical. These are just naturally occurring things that just don't have the physics or don't really understand, and we will eventually understand them. So I see where he's going. Nuts and bolts, the difference between nuts and bolts and prosaic. And then the mental one. And you want to read what it is?
Mental origins are produced by the mind's function or dysfunction. There's 3 different ones. It shows remotely induced, neurological, and psychosocial. So remotely induced, they are speaking of things like repressed memory.
Hypnosis. Right.
Yes, hypnosis.
Yeah, and this is also, it looks like things that could be done to you, like psychotronics.
And telepathy and disinformation.
Interesting. And the neurological?
Someone who might have physical trauma or medical issues or neurodivergence.
There's a book, Phenomena, by Annie Jacobson, that they suggest reading to understand neurodivergence. And then psychosocial?
A false belief or sociological. The reference for sociological, that's a popular book, The Flying Saucers by Carl Jung.
And I see they have Freud on the psychological part.
And then religious, to read American Cosmic by Diana Pasulka.
Yeah. And I guess the category for other is, it says unimagined, inconceivable, or something else, which is just, we haven't a clue. It doesn't fit in this case category. It's a catch-all category, I guess.
Probably. I
Yeah.
think so.
And then let's see, extra dimensional.
It shows having a fundamentally different relationship to space-time. They divide it up in 3 different areas. Incorporeal, having no natural material presence in our space-time.
Interesting.
And then simulation.
You live in a matrix. You live in a simulation.
Information-based reality. And then religious is the third one. So they show gnostic, new age, monotheistic, and polytheist. And then spiritual.
Yeah, it's interesting in the incorporeal one, the one having no material presence in our space-time. They've got the electromagnetic, which I could see that because, we can only experience part of the spectrum with our senses. There's lots of things that we need, like infrared cameras and night vision goggles. Photonic, contact with beams of light. Demonic, parasitic, something that just sticks to you. Occult, and pneumonic, virus. The selfish gene, as if it's something to do with the gene. Interesting. And then the last one is interdimensional, which is traveling to or interacting with our universe from an external position, and includes parallel universes. Passport to Magnolia by Jacques Vallée is a very popular book too. It includes time travel, colliding universes, and hyperspace. Very Star Trek-y. It's a really interesting map. I mean, we'll have to delve into these over time. It's nice that we've got all of the civilian investigators trying to help figure out this phenomena.
Really interesting.
I realize it's not I Dream a Genie.
Well, it's too complicated now. There's too many things going on since Major Nelson and Healy.
Oh my gosh, you remember them all.
Oh yeah, that's like one of the great shows. That and Gilligan's Island.
Okay, we went from
time.
UFOs to Gilligan's Island.
Yeah,
that's quite a leap. I guess
quite
you're in the same time period.
But however, it would fall under time travel, sort of.
I'm not sure they did time travel.
Hey, on here, the thing that, like it said, the extraterrestrial and the crypto-terrestrial, but the one that is really interesting is the ultra-terrestrial.
Where's that?
If you see, it's by itself on the map to the left of where it says the origins of UAP. You'll look where it says it's a box. An ultra-terrestrial can manipulate space-time using methods beyond our current scientific understanding.
It's not a category per se. It's
No.
It's something that may be true in several different categories.
Right, because it all has different things that link to it. The interdimensional, the extra dimensional, the physical, all of those affect the ultra-terrestrial.
Listeners, if you have any stories or you have any other recipes you'd like us to look at that may have a paranormal connection, let us know. We hope you enjoyed the podcast and we look forward to hearing from you.
We'd like to thank you listeners for being with us here and hope you have a great day.
This has been the Paranormal Food Consciousness Podcast.